Unfortunately, sometimes we've seen some of the ramifications of that, right? We know of a property that someone bought off market themselves without representation for $3.9 million and is now on the market just 2 years later for 2.2. I mean, those type of huge baths you can avoid.
If you're considering buying real estate in Lake Tahoe, especially Incline Village or Crystal Bay, this is one of those markets where experience truly matters. This is a micro market with limited inventory, seasonal swings, environmental restrictions, and price points that can move by millions of dollars based on just a handful of listings. That's why today we're excited to sit down with Grant Meyer. Grant has been a full-time real estate professional in Tahoe for nearly 2 decades, a local resident for over 35 years, and is consistently one of the top producing realtors in Incline Village, selling between 30 and 50 million in real estate every single year, including 75 million in 2020. Grant is joined by my business partner, Bryan, who is a former CPA and has been a mortgage advisor in Lake Tahoe for 33 years. He has worked alongside Grant for over a decade, helping buyers navigate financing in one of the most complex real estate markets in the country. In this conversation, they're breaking down what buyers need to understand about the Tahoe market right now, what's changing in the market as we move forward, and why having the right local team makes all the difference when you're making a major purchase in Lake Tahoe. Let's jump in.
How is business for you right now? And, what are you seeing out there? What are the fears and the and kind of the excitement of the buyers and sellers out there right now? Are they acting? Are they paralyzed? And I shouldn't use the word paralyzed. Yeah. Are they cautious? What's happening?
Incline Village in Crystal Bay is a very unique market.
Yes.
Right? I mean, we're talking 10,000 parcels total, more or less. So it's what I call a micro market. And it can be easily affected, price points, by just a handful of listing or sales, one way or another. If you've got a buyer looking for a panoramic lakeview home and there are 10 options, the price could be millions of dollars less than when 3 or 4 of those go off the market and somebody buys them. And now there's only 5 or 6 available for them to look at. So, so market timing in our market is really, really important. And this is why I think it's so valuable to hire a full-time professional realtor in your area, because our market has very seasonal changes, very busy and slow seasons, and they can be affected by something just as small as the weather. I mean, we're sitting here in mid-December, and we haven't had much of a snowfall this year. No. Now, look, you and I have been here 30, 35 years. We've seen the drought 7-year cycles and the booms and the bust seasons. Like we know, snow will come, but it hasn't come early this year. And as a result, what that means is that buyers of single family homes are able to see a lot more properties into the late fall, early winter season than they traditionally do. So we're actually seeing more sales on single family homes this time of year than historically we ever do this season. But it's because if your agent understands what's happening in the market and is following the regular the trends of what buyers and sellers are doing, they know it's still a great time to have a single family home on the market. We're getting more offers, we're getting more acceptances, and we're getting more closings than we usually do, wrapping up in September and October traditionally.
And you're saying that a lot of that has to do with the weather.
A lot of it has to do with just the fact that there's no snow on the ground.
Yeah, buyers can see.
Buyers want to be able to walk
the yard.
Around. Yeah.
And you can walk around the house.
They want to be able to see the exterior. They want to be able to drive up the driveway. Sellers don't have to have plow services right now. Don't have to have people
shoveling their decks.
Have taken off their big snow boots as they walk into the, on the carpet or So it's amazing something that small can make that difference. And there's also yearly changes, right? Our market varies greatly year to year, right? This year, I was talking with another agent just on the way over, actually, and he was, he's saying, hey, how's your year? And I said, oh, I had a great year. He said, but it was a lot harder to do the same amount of business this year. And I said, yeah, it was. So, you still have those fantastic clients that are just awesome. And you still have some of those really good clients that are just really good. But this year it felt like there was a larger portion of clients that, maybe it's buyers that had, lost out on 6 or 7 multiple offer scenarios over the COVID years that are now ready to stick it to those sellers on every corner. Or, maybe it's sellers that are still thinking it's 2023 pricing, even though, it hasn't been that way for at least, 18 to 24 months. We've seen, more of a, I wouldn't say correcting, but a stabilizing of prices. Yeah. So, you have to kind of keep an eye on those things. And so it's been challenging, right? Buyers are always looking to get the best deal possible. And this is traditionally one of those seasons where you can, I've bought every one of my personal properties between December and March and April, because you don't have as many options, but you also don't have as much competition. So you tend to get a better deal.
You bet. Now that all sounds perfect. I mean, knowing, and that was just a mind bender for me too, knowing that there isn't as much snow on the ground. I mean, I always know people will take their houses off the market in the winter and put them back on in the spring for that reason. So, and it's easier for people to get around and look at property and don't have to worry about storms and things like that. So
now the caveat is condos, especially ones that allow for short-term rentals, tend to sell pretty well during our winter, especially when the ski season is going.
You bet.
But of course, all the ski resorts are still waiting for snow too. Yeah. So we haven't started the big winter push on the condo buyers right now. So, but that's something most agents don't understand either, is that most condos will be also coming off the market. And yet in the last 3 years, I've sold more condos between January and April than I've sold all summer long, which most agents will tell you is the traditional busy season for condos too. So, you got to make sure you're working with somebody that's following the trends on the market.
No doubt. How has your year been? I don't know if you can quantify it at this point in time.
It's been great. I'll probably wrap up around 45 million in total sales.
That's great.
I've got 5 more, hopefully, knock on wood, closing before the end of December. So
that's a nice December.
Yeah. It's a good year, but it's always a lot of work, but I love what I do. So, it's fun doing it. And, being able to either help a buyer get a fantastic deal or find their dream of living in Tahoe or even a second vacation home in the area, or helping one of my sellers see a great return on their investment from when they bought a few years ago, or maybe even many years ago. It's what I love to do, man.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's funny. I mean, even other agents, when I'm talking to other agents, and because they know we work together a lot, and they'll say, I don't know how Grant sold it for that much. Or how did he get that good of a deal for his buyer? Anyway, so I do hear that, and I witness it a lot, especially on the buyer side. Yeah. So, and you brought up a good point in terms of this is a unique market, clearly. Lake Tahoe in general, Incline Village even more so, micro market here. It's a certain type of buyer or homeowner that's going to be here. And working with a professional, we had a recent experience actually where there was somebody, we don't have to mention names, that was trying to buy a property on their own and were not successful. You came into the picture, represented them, got them into escrow. And even though it was a kind of a tricky transaction, we got it closed and done. And now you're selling the house that they moved from. So
a lot of our clients, Bryan, are from, Bay Area, Northern California, Bay Area, Sacramento, maybe Los Angeles, some larger metropolitan regions where, online property estimates can be much more accurate than they are in our area. And so a lot of people come to our small, town and think that A lot of our clients are very affluent, very successful business people in their own right, more successful than I am in life in many ways, and think that they can handle this themselves. And, they can do the online research and they can take care of this. And, unfortunately, sometimes we've seen some of the ramifications of that, right? We know of a property that someone bought off market themselves without representation for $3.9 million and is now on the market just 2 years later for 2.2. I mean, those type of huge baths, you can avoid, making those 50-60% mistakes by paying 3 to 6%. It's in our market, it's a fantastic insurance policy to hire a professional that knows what they're doing.
About it. Not only there's always something that comes up in the transaction too. There's either negotiating repairs or just making sure the house is going to transfer.
Appraisers, lenders, insurance, repairs, furnishings. Half of our properties sell furnished. Yeah. You'd be surprised about how many arguments we get over, little pieces of art or little, chairs, tables, that one was supposed to stay, that one wasn't, So it's really important to hire a professional that's been through this before.
Yeah. And that kind of speaks to another question or a comment initially is that your service level, and I've experienced this myself, like whenever I need a repair around my house, I call you and say, hey, Grant, and this is just happening to me because I had a faucet leak.
You had a leak, yeah.
Yeah, and so now I needed someone from you. Actually, it was one of them was a hydronic heating system leak, like specialty. Not every plumber can fix that. And so I had to get a hydronic heating specialist, type thing. And you're like, okay, what kind? Regular plumber, hydronic heat, because my house. Yeah. Anyway, so getting me dialed in on all that stuff. And then just recently getting me to, because I have to have some mold remediation. Yeah. And it's funny, you gave me the guy's number. I call him. Literally, he's in my house in an hour and a half. So it was pretty crazy. But talk to me a little bit about, to me, that is something that a buyer and I guess I'm mostly speaking about buyers because they're moving into it for the first time, but it would still apply to sellers who are getting their home ready
Bryan,
to list.
Even clients that, aren't selling that bought from me 10, 12, 14 years ago will call me and I've got somebody. I've got, I've been a resident in this community for 35 years. I've been a real estate professional for going on 17 now as a full-time, 100% in the industry. And you learn who you can count on, who are those good people and those, those contractors and those affiliates and those appraisers that you've sent business to time and time again, and you've treated them well, they treat you well, right? And so it's the same reason why I work with you so much and encourage my clients to work with you so much is when you find someone that just does it better than the rest, that is dependable, that's reliable, that is ethical, that is and that performs. I mean, that's the bottom line, right? We live in a resort market. It's really hard to get an electrician to come to your house. They're out on the snowboard slope or they're, working on some $30 million spec property, paying through the nose. So, you got to take care of people. And when you treat them right, they treat you right. So it's really nice to have all those local connections, the local ties, and to be able to pull those strings when you need it, right? Because sometimes you got an emergency and you need somebody to get something fixed right away so that we can close tomorrow,
Yep. And it comes from a lot of experience, right? A lot of transactions and learning, sometimes the hard ways. I mean, you've probably learned that I'll never use this guy. Yeah. So having
there's some hard lessons for sure.
Having the experience is pretty important. And then obviously having referred them a number of times.
Yeah.
And so they, like when I call the guy, he said, who sent you my way? I was like, Grant Meyer. And he's like, oh, okay. I felt like I was getting an elevated level of experience at that point in time.
Well,
so
I
he
mean,
wants
Bryan,
to take care of your right. You're putting food on his table.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. It's good business. And then you take care of these people. Like, you are a very generous person. I know that about you. Like, the general relationship between a real estate agent and a lender is the lender is always trying to get business from the real estate agent. But we've developed such a relationship that there's a trusting. You buy me more dinners than I buy you. Like, it's just amazing. And I think that's a testament to how serious you are about this business and how you want to take care of your network. And you're the same way with your clients as well. Like, once they're in your fold, you will take care of them.
I don't like to toot my own horn, but I've sold the most property in town over the last 6 years. So, we've had a ton of opportunities and transactions to be able to meet with a lot of different appraisers, inspectors, repair techs, the whole 9 yards. And and you find out those people that you want to work with again and again, and you unfortunately interact with some that you would prefer not to, but that's life. Something I learned. So my parents were in the restaurant industry, and something I learned early on. Some of my first jobs were working in the pizza parlor and rolling out the dough and restocking the salad bar and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And my grandpa was actually had a hamburger stand growing up for my dad. So it's kind of multi-generational. And my dad and mom taught me that, you can earn your customer the first time much easier than you have to re-earn them time and time again. So I've always tried to give the best customer service right from the beginning, treat clients like family and friends from the start, because it's so, once you treat them well, they'll become your client for life, right? And you've seen it. We've had some clients that have done, I think the most was 23 transactions with me over and over and over. So, and part of that is, by, you want to treat your clients like you want them to come back and use you again next time. Right. And so there's a saying, I think so many agents and realtors in our industry, want to skin their sheep, right? And get every bit of wool out of every single transaction they can. And I've learned that I'm going to shear my sheep. I want to keep, getting more wool every season, and I get a ton of repeat business because of how I treat my clients.
No doubt about it, buddy. And God, that was evident by and this has been years since we had this conversation, but it was around when other real estate agents refer you business from out of the area, how you would pay a referral fee larger than average.
Yeah, sometimes,
for sure.
Sometimes double what most industry professionals expect.
Exactly. And that was because that client introduction, you knew that you were going to take great care of them, right? And then there's a high probability that they continue to work with you in the future, or their referrals, or their family.
And same thing, Brian, is I want to make sure I'm treating the other agent the way I want to be treated.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I want that agent from wherever around the world that has a client that wants to buy or sell in our beautiful area to know, well, Grant's the only guy I want to send my clients to. And so I take those referrals.
That makes total sense.
Really important. And so, I want that relationship, to be the best. And, I hope that they think of me that way, and that they always think of me that way. So,
Awesome. Awesome. How many, like this year, I mean, those are great numbers.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, my best year, I think, was 2020. I did 75 million in sales.
Did you really do 75?
So
That's
that
big.
was probably my highest year. But I mean, ever since, I usually end up somewhere between 30 to 50 is pretty, has been where I'm stabled, over the last, kind of 5, 6, 7 years.
You're basically doing that with one transaction coordinator, Zoe, who's awesome.
She's fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to have a good team around you, right, Brian? I mean, that's why I use you and Shay, is because, you guys are the best. And when I've got a client that needs a loan and they say, well, who do you recommend? My first question actually is, do you have someone you like to use, or can I encourage you to use one of our local lenders that we know will perform? Because your part in the transaction is very, very important, and your customer service is phenomenal. And so when I use good team members around me, you make me look good. And that shows my clients that not only do we have a good electrician and a good plumber but we also have a good lender, and we've got a good title company, and we've got, we've got the full package for them. And that's really important that they all know that we're all pulling in the same direction.
And that should be utmost importance to any real estate professional. Is like, I have a team, and this is a tried and true team that I've tested and that type of thing. So how important is it to use a local lender in this environment? And I know you have stories about this.
Dude, it is the most important thing. I mean, that about half of our transactions are cash purchases. So in our area, we're in a very affluent area. A lot of people are doing 1031 exchanges where they're transferring investment properties into other investment properties. So only about half of our transactions need a loan, but those that do, it is very, very challenging when you get an outside lender that doesn't have the local experience of working with some of the unique things that are on our contract, some of the unique challenges in our area. We have our own smaller MLS system here. Most of their appraisers aren't members of the MLS system. Most of their appraisal management companies, the AMCs, as Bryan can delve into, don't have the right connections in the area. And it really gums up the works. It really makes the clients, the buyers, feel really nervous. It almost makes them feel deflated when they work with an outside lender, because there's just such a lack of transparency in the process, of follow through. Most of the lenders will end up getting it done, but a lot of time, I can't tell you how many times my clients have had to either threaten to walk away from the transaction, potentially lose their earnest money deposit, have to release a portion of their earnest money deposit for a longer extension for an outside lender to be able to perform when, you're right here in town. They can pick up the phone. You always answer. You always respond to an email. They can literally knock on the door to your office, 2 minutes away from the property they're purchasing. So, and your performance rate is off the charts. And so, I know everybody's tight and pinching pennies, and, with rates as they are, everybody wants to find the best deal possible. But what I always say is, you'd be surprised about how good Bryan's rates can be. Give him a chance. He may be even able to beat some of those outside lenders that, are quoting you because you're, their business model or whatever. You have an existing financial relationship. Give me a break. Talk to somebody that can do it, and you'd be surprised at what he can do it for.
And that's always the thing, right? They just don't know how painful it'll be. And that's the problem. Up front, they think, oh, no, I have this lender, or I did some online lender. So they told me no problem. Mm-hmm. And then, by the time they get down the road.
And because we're a secondary home market, a lot of our buyers say, "Whoa, this lender's fantastic. I've used them several times before in my area, and they say they can lend it. So don't worry." Well, our market is unique. Our market is different. Things like TRPA, things like impervious coverage, BMPs. Most lenders and appraisers from out of the area have no idea what these things mean, and trying to work through them in a contract is really challenging for them.
Right, because their underwriters will ask questions about those acronyms or those things because they don't quite understand it. So you're right. Our contract, very unique. All the contracts up here are really unique, and they're different.
And they need to be,
which is incredible.
in my opinion.
They do.
Because of the specific environmental challenges we have, because of our, our unincorporated area of Washoe County and some of our local government improvement districts, and it's a special place in more ways than one. Unfortunately, too often do we hear horror stories of a buyer will say, like, no, Grant, I got that. And at some point, look, I work for them, right? I work for you clients, right? And if you tell me, no, Grant, like, this is who I'm going with, that's who we go with.
Yeah. And you just have to.
And sometimes they have to learn the hard way, or at the end, they're like, oh my gosh, Grant, what were you thinking? We'll never do that again. And it
takes you a little bit more energy to manage that all the way through.
So much more time and effort. But hey, that's the way it goes, right? I work for my clients, right? I'm their agent. And so when they decide that they're going to go with a Wells Fargo or Rocket Mortgage, some, big bank lender out of the area, I can only give my best advice, right? And I give my advice from my hundreds of transactions that we've done and my years of expertise. But at some point in time, they're in charge. They're running the show, and I work for them. I think most of the clients that I encourage to shop around and vet you, I think they end up going with you. But,
But the vast majority of them. Yeah, not all of them. And I've always been the first guy to say, listen, I understand your structure, what you're trying to do. I believe this will be like, if they want to stay with somebody, because this is not, lending is not a simple process, right? If you've gone down the road, you've already given all your documentation to somebody and you've spent a few hours working on it, sometimes it can make sense to go with that. And I'll be the first one to tell them, listen, you're already pretty far down the road.
See, I totally disagree. Just because a client has spent 3 hours sending, W-2s and bank records to a lender doesn't mean that they shouldn't spend 3 hours and do it again for you. In my opinion, they should.
Because they'll save that on the back
They're
end.
going to save that times 100 on the headaches and hassles and frustrations. Right. Here's one of my favorite stories. One of my best clients, I'm not going to name names, but a repeat buyer, at least 10 transactions that I can think of. Probably 50 million in sales of volume in all these transactions over and over and over. Calls me up and says he wants to buy a new house. And I said, great. And I said, are you using CAT? No, I'm getting a loan. Wells Fargo, Premier Lending. I've got a financial relationship with them. I'm going to, deposit X amount of dollars. They're going to give me this great rate. And I said, okay, like, I've had nothing but a nightmare time working with them, on several transactions, both, from other buyers being represented by him and mine. And he said, look, I got this. He's a very seasoned real estate investor, right? And I said, okay, okay, right? Like, he said, he's got it. Okay, right? He's done this many times, not as many times as I've done it, but he's a return client. He knows what he's doing. We get almost all the way down the process. We're supposed to be closing in a couple days, ready for the, final loan docs. We reach out to his, some of his team members, and we get a bounce back email that says so-and-so is no longer working at Wells Fargo.
Oh, no.
And he goes, oh my gosh. And literally the shit hit the fan, right? Like, the person that was supposed to be working on his file is terminated from the organization. His file gets transferred to another, loan specialist, that it gets thrown in the pile. And literally it was a disaster. And the seller was not very flexible on timing. And we were, this close to walking away, and we had to pull, a bunch of rabbits out of our hat or stuff out of our butt, basically, to hold it together and make it happen and buy them enough time to be able to perform. And at the end of the transaction, right up until the end, he and his wife were like, Grant, this was their primary home. This was their dream home they wanted to buy. This was their personal home that they wanted to move their family into. And they said, I think we just need to walk away. Like, I don't think, that we're going to be able to get this through with Wells Fargo. And I said, and I was able to pull it together and, shake enough.
I know you got on the phone,
rattled
to
enough
the Wells Fargo
vice
folks,
presidents up the chain of command until
many layers.
somebody, felt that it was easier just to get it finalized and approved than to have to keep dealing with me calling every 3 hours. So, but yeah, even really veteran savvy clients still sometimes, get bait and switched, right? I mean, it's natural in this environment when some company can flash a big number up there or a small number up there. Yeah. And, it's hard. It's hard to say no sometimes. So, but yeah, all I can ask is that my clients listen to my advice, but at the end, it's their decision. They get to drive the ship. Yeah.
Completely. Are there any shifts in, this is getting back to some of the original points I made at the very beginning or around like psychology, like what is happening? And I love the psychology of this business because although a lot of times it doesn't change, there are new factors. There's new factors in the world, right, that are influencing people's ability, not only ability to make decisions, but wanting to make the right financial decisions. In my mind, you've got a financial decision to buy a home. You have a lifestyle decision to buy, especially in Tahoe, right? Mm-hmm. Like you're looking at lifestyle up here if it's something you're going to occupy or spend time in. Mm-hmm. But you're also wanting to make a good investment. Like you don't want to make a mistake, a financial mistake. What are some of the things that buyers are like? What are some of the either hesitancies or questions they're asking? Is it different or is it pretty much the same as it's always been? Is there more uncertainty out there or what's happening?
So one thing that's always stayed the same in my 16 plus year career is that clients in our area, buyers in our market, view real estate as more of a portfolio product, as an investment, right? Even if it's a primary home, they view it as what's my return going to look like? What's my exit strategy going to look like? I feel like I'm more a financial advisor when it comes to investing in real estate than a realtor in many ways, right? Because almost every one of my clients, many still want that beautiful home for their family to raise, many generations in, but they all want to make sure, because our purchase prices are high, right? Our entry level is expensive. And when you're putting out that much of your capital or financial commitment to a loan in the future, you want to make sure that you're doing it wisely. So I always have that lens in, when we look at property. What I've found is that recently, that lens also, has to be adjusted a little bit in that most of our buyers now don't want something that they're going to need to put a lot of work into to get that equity out of. Most of our clients right now want things that are more turnkey and done. Yeah. And I think it's probably because of our demographics of our area, right? We've got a lot of older retiree buyers. Sure. Most of those people aren't interested in doing a giant remodel or a flip. .com young families moving out of the city, looking to get, more rural, more safety, more recreational advantages for their family. Same thing. They're fairly affluent. They usually don't want a major fixer-upper project. Yeah. And then we get a lot of younger, single, tech kind of buyers that, want to come up and use all the, great outdoor amenities that we have in the area. And they're used to, getting 5-star Michelin, food, 3-star Michelin food delivered via Grubhub, right? And so that same kind of immediate return on their expectations means things need to be done from day one. So
Those are the more popular sales right now.
so a lot of the properties that are moving look fully finished, done completely or 99% done. So that all that buyer pool is kind of looking at the same option. So I think there's a huge opportunity for those buyers that are kind of going against the grain. There's a lot of, opportunity for some major equity development in our community because a lot of stuff that's sitting is available for a pretty good value if you're willing to put some work into it.
Yeah. And you even get involved in that stage. I mean, not per se saying it's going to cost you this much to improve. I mean, you can give some broad numbers, but certainly recommending the right people to get involved in terms of those remodel projects.
My father was also a general contractor
so
for
a little bit about
30 years. So I've worked with him for longer than I wanted to. No, exactly.
I didn't even know that. So you got it. You were on the job site too?
Geez. Yeah. That's why I got into real estate, because I was tired of waking up at 6 a.m. and swinging a hammer, and being exhausted all day long. So physically exhausted.
Awesome.
I was like, okay, I got to find something that's that's a little more my speed. So, I think it's important to have that eye too, right? To be able to have that investment eye, and also, hey, this could be fixed up pretty nice, and you could make a nice return. That's how
you've done it yourself.
That's how I've made most of my money. I mean, I love what I do representing clients, but most of my family's personal assets have been built on real estate remodeling and selling in the future. So
right.
I think it's a great idea. You just have to have the patience. It's not easy.
No. I'm getting ready to probably start something like
that
myself.
There you go.
And it scares me. So
it's a little overwhelming. It's a little daunting.
Yeah.
But if you do it smart and wise and you stay heavily involved, I think there's a fantastic return of it.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. So what about sellers? Like realistic expectations of what they should list a property for.
Yeah. That's really hard. And it's because of the same micro market, Bryan, is that timing, right? Seasonal timing is really important for sellers. Like we talked about what's happening this fall. Traditionally in the spring, the buyers get here and start looking for property before sellers are on the market.
Right.
So especially over the last, I'd say 5 to 6, maybe 7 years, buyers are ready in April and May, and most listings, especially single family homes, don't come on until June or July. And so I've found a really great opportunity. If I have those sellers that are ready, we've got the marketing package done already to come on the market earlier. We usually get a higher price than when we'd have a lot more competition later on. So
earlier being March.
In the season, right? Earlier in the summer season. Usually,
April.
Yeah, usually you're talking April to May.
Okay.
But you never know, right? Every year's different. If we have a huge snow year in the spring, if we have another miracle March, let's say, or a huge, amazing April, that may push the buyers back a little ways. So you have to really have your thumb on it. The other thing to keep in mind is we are a secondary home market still. I'd say we're probably 60%, year-round residents, and maybe 40% investors, vacation homeowners, that kind of thing.
Yeah, sure.
But still, that we're not. It's very rare that one of our sellers is selling their only home and is moving across the country and starting a new job.
Right.
Most of our buyers are I've worked with some buyers that look for 7-8 years before they eventually pull the trigger on something. So our days on the market is a lot longer than in a traditional, metropolitan area. So sellers have to understand that too.
It could be a year or a year. To sell your home.
In 2019, the year before COVID, our average days on the market for a single family home was 11 and a half months. That was average. So some things still sold in 30 days, but to be on the market 2 years was not unheard of.
And then you go into your COVID years and everything's happening in 30 to 45 days. And so it set the mentality for these last few years are how people, and it's same thing on the lending side too. I mean, it has everything to do, can be, gosh, I expected a lower rate, right? Or, along those lines.
And some of those same buyers, right, that were winning 3 or 4 offer bidding wars on properties in 2020 through 2022 are maybe now ready to trade up for something. They fell in love with this community. They want, a bigger home for the family, or they want a home instead of a condo. And they expect there to be the same kind of interest on their property when they come to market.
Right. Because they remember the frenzy.
Right. And it's just, that's not the case.
And the reality is they probably, if they were multiple bidding, they had to pay kind of top dollar to get the deal, and the property appreciation isn't
probably matching, right? The interest
what their
level
expectations
that was
are.
there. And so, a lot of that is just clear communication, right? Is saying, look, here's what I predict. Now, I don't have a crystal ball in front of me. I can only tell you what I'd expect based on my historical knowledge.
Which is vast.
It's good, right? Like I know what I'm doing. I sell more property than anybody else, but there are still properties that I sell for higher than I expected them to, and some that sell for lower than because for some reason a buyer doesn't find that same value that other people look at it.
Yeah, you bet.
So, it's more of an art than a science, Brian. And as much as I love to work with the numbers and read the comps,
here's the averages.
Every property is different, and every buyer walks into everyone differently. Even condos in the exact same association, this one looks at that versus this one looks at this, and it's what makes it fun and challenging at the same time.
I know. Yeah, it's not there's not exacts.
There's nothing else
market.
like real estate.
Yeah, exactly. What's your favorite thing about it?
It's the clients. I absolutely love and adore who I get to work with.
Yeah.
And to be able to literally make thousands of friends, because that's what they become, right?
Yeah.
Is these people become my friends. They they come to my dinner parties, clients.
Your client appreciation parties is pretty crazy too. I love it.
But that's what it is. Our
fun.
town is so small,
Yeah.
That these people become my community. And so it's so much fun meeting someone, showing them how wonderful it is to live in this area, touring them around all the amenities we have and all the different communities and all the different subdivisions here. And then working them through the process of becoming my neighbor. That's my favorite part.
Right. Yeah. And it's pretty amazing. And there's a lot of beautiful places in Lake Tahoe. Incline, we're biased, right? We live here.
Yeah.
Has got some pretty special amenities to it. And so it's just a special place up here. If you can really, you obviously relax into that. We're busy professionals, right?
One of
Raising
these days,
families.
One
right?
of these days, we'll get to spend some more time at the beaches, or on the golf courses. But no, I love what I do. I get out and get a few days of skiing in a year. I get on the boat once in a while. Not a lot, but I love what I do. And my wife always teased me that because I could never kind of figure out what I wanted to get into professionally for quite a while. And she loves her job, and she goes, you just have to find something you love to do. And I'm like, I'm never going to love any working better than not working. I was completely wrong. Like she teases me that I answer my iWatch in the shower, she's
Dude,
like,
I'm telling you,
she's like, you're insane.
You're about 90% when I call you. And the other is I get a quick text back. Hey, I'll call you right back.
Well, it's because I'm on the online with somebody else.
Exactly. You can't be on the.
But yes, my phone minute plan is quickly eaten up, but that's okay. I love what I do, and I'd rather do it than not do it. And it's fun for me.
It's pretty great. Well, you're really good at it, buddy. And I
thank you. You're not bad yourself.
I love work. Well, and one of the easiest, best things about working with you when I get a referral is that not only do I know the people are serious about and committed to what they're doing, because that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But they're also really good people, and you've already guided them around the process. They sort of have some expectations already of how things are going to go. So it's great. It makes my job easier. I can call you and say, hey, tell me a little bit more about the Smiths or the Joneses or whatever it is. And you'll say, oh yeah, this guy, and you've already got this depth of knowledge about your people. You take the time to really get to know them and you will ask them questions about their finances. A lot of agents,
You have to.
a lot of agents are, and you know what it is, they just don't want to go down that road. They figure it might be something intrusive, or let the lender manage that side of it. But it's so important that you have an idea, and that's, I think, takes you to another level professionally. And what I really enjoy is you'll say, yeah, this guy is self-employed and here's his situation and they're moving from here. You'll give me some great background information. So not only does the client not have to say it again, I have a good understanding of where they are, but I can already start to structure things and get a good feel for them. So I know immediately I can be very impactful on the phone, in that very first phone call, right? Because I have a little background.
You are the best at figuring out what a client needs to get to their goals. And that's why I love being able to even just get, a surface plan financially, fiscally about what, some of these clients are looking to do, is because if I can give you a little bit of a snapshot, you already have like a path and a track to get them where they need whatever their goal is. And sometimes, we've worked with some clients where, that's a 6 to 18 month process, right? We're going to work on your credit scores. Here's how you do that. What I love most about working with you, Bryan, is you will always refer them or point them in the right direction, even if it's not working with you.
Yeah.
You'll say, look, here's your goal of buying that house. Here's why we can't do that right now because of this, past history or this challenge right now, or because, you filed taxes at this rate and we can't qualify. Yeah. But here's the program. Here's the 12-month plan so that we can get you to your goal. And I think that's really rare. I don't think many people that I've worked with in the lending industry put that much effort into building those long-term relationships, or say, hey, look, I would love to earn your business, but the best way for you to be fiscally responsible is to go over here instead. Yeah. And I think it's very rare for someone to say, hey, you and I do that, right? I don't work in, in every market that my clients want to, because I can't be an expert in every field. I'm an expert in this market. You're an expert in what you provide your clients. And it's really, I think, remarkable that you send business elsewhere if it's in their best interest. Yeah. That fiduciary responsibility, I think you take really earnestly, and that's remarkable.
And that's exactly it. It comes from the CPA background and the financial advising background. That's just how you do it, right? You ultimately try to help them.
That's how you do it, but that's not how everybody does it.
I know. Yeah, well, that's how you do it too. So I appreciate that about you.
That's why we work together.
Yeah. All right. Cool. Well,
you want to wrap up?
Is it? Yeah.
Oh, we've got 10 more minutes if you
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
You got anything else you want to talk about?
You want to ask me anything?
Okay. What is, all right, Bryan, so that our buyers know, what is the biggest hurdle to getting buyers whatever financial qualification they're looking for right now? Is it people that have tried to be a little too creative in saving on their tax savings and therefore haven't qualified for enough income? Is it credit scores? Is it interest rates? What is the biggest hurdle right now?
Yeah. Well, and again, it's somewhat market specific. So I do a lot of business on the California side, Nevada side, and then down the hill a little bit, northern Nevada, Reno, Carson, that type of thing. And so it's a little different in different markets. But up here, it is, generally speaking, if I'm working with a retired person or a self-employed person, it's being creative in terms of how you document their income. The good news is, like you said, we're in an affluent community. So generally speaking, there's some assets. So they either have some retirement or down payment assets,
or some investments that you can refer to.
Yeah. And so we can use investments and other assets for qualifying purposes, even if the tax returns don't show a lot of income. So, but that, there it is. It's generally around income. Mm-hmm. There's not as many people saying, hey, how do I do a no down payment loan up here in Tahoe? They know they're going to have to come in with some down payment. Every once in a while, we get somebody who's a little light on that. And then there's some creative stuff we can do there. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it is, complicated income, which is what we're experts at now after doing this for 30 some years. Mm-hmm. In this environment. We've seen most everything. And that's the beautiful thing about it is actually I haven't seen everything. So it's fun to solve a new puzzle every once in a while. Mm-hmm. But, we have, as a broker, we have a ton of product. So it's good. I mean, and I'm still learning every day. There's new bank statement programs that come out that are, it's just crazy what lenders are willing to do. It almost feels a little 2005, 2006 years. Not quite like that.
I remember those, the ninja loans, like no income, no job.
Yeah, exactly. No problem. But it was, they're not quite like that because they require more down payment now.
Oh, good.
Used to be you didn't have to do any down payment. But and I think it is... Credit always is pretty good.
Okay.
And the people that are struggling with it, one of the things that I wish I could do is maybe have a little bit more time with them up front to position their credit a little better. Right. Almost everybody, I can improve their score by 20 points if I just had another month ahead of time before they're ready to go. Yeah. Because there's always, and it's just knowing the scoring model and how to tweak it,
how to play the game
a little bit. Yeah, how to play the game.
You're good at playing the game.